It's great to have everyone here. We know one of the things that's vital for any type of conversation is to create energy ahead of the discussion that's going to take place. So let's cut straight to a video involving John Cena in order to start the discussion around AI. Let's hit the video.
Tottenham Hotspur striker Harry Kane. John Cena is highly athletic, with a strong work ethic and a high track record of performance at an elite level. I don't know who's been smooth talking this internet machine, but I like where it's going. Based on these traits, he could be compared to Harry Kane. John Cena's dedication and ability to inspire could also be compared to Kane in his tireless work rate, strong leadership, and positive influence on those around him, both on and off the pitch. Harry Kane, I've never met you, but you sound like a hell of a guy. I've never had this much flattery bestowed upon me in my life. So, Harry Kane, thank you for making my day. Made me smile because I got to be called a whole lot of nice things because of you. If you ever want to get a pint somewhere, I'm your man.
Okay, so for those of you that I'm sure you picked up on, that was John Cena communicating with ChatGPT, asking him what type of Premier League footballer would he be. And surprise, surprise, it was actually Harry Kane. So today's conversation here...
You're right, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Jamie Milner was the other one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There you go. Right, yeah, and James Milner was the other one as well. So today's conversation is really about AI in football, how data and technology impacts the beautiful game. That being said, there's no need to worry. There's no deep dive into algorithms and machine learning. It's really a conversation around how AI can be utilized as a tool to impact performance, creativity, and everything in and around the football ecosystem. So let's start things off by asking the esteemed panelists here, what is your take on AI in terms of its general introduction, both on and off the field? Koen, you're looking great there at the end. Maybe we'll start with you, and perhaps we can just take 60 seconds per panelist just for you to share your high-level overview.
Sure. So my name is Koen Bosma, partner at Apex Capital. We invest with elite athletes in sports media and entertainment. Roughly 50% of our portfolio now has underlying AI technology, not because they're AI-based, but ultimately because the value it provides for its customers it delivers true value. So for us, AI is really means to an end, but it's needless to mention that more and more companies will leverage the technology to do good for the world of sports.
Very good. Majdi?
Yeah, so Majdi Allulu, founder and CEO of Grintafy. Grintafy is a talent discovery platform, and throughout our process of identifying talent, we use AI to let us know or give us some input on which players are to be looked at or looked for. So I think AI is the future. I believe it's going to happen gradually from the user base that we have. I'm talking about little kids, but definitely AI gives us more insights, more inputs on the performance of the players. It gives us prediction of who would perform better based on data and based on historicals. And I think it's a great way of identifying talents.
Just maybe, so when you say, for example, perform better, like, what does that mean? Because ultimately performance is subject to someone's view or someone's perspective, but when you say performs better, like how do you do that?
Yeah, so AI, whatever it is, in AI cameras, wearables, gives us as an application, or gives the player himself a number of records, right? That is for my game that I played yesterday, these are my records. The game that I played the day before, these are my records. So I know my weaknesses. I know the points that I have to enhance, whether it was my acceleration, whether it was my accuracy in passing. So these figures give me as a player and gives me as a team coach the ability to know my weaknesses and work on them.
Okay, great. Aisha?
For me, I think representing one of the coolest sport, which is freestyle football, and a very digital native federation in the world, because we're just a decade old and very technology first. I think AI is very natural to our audience, be it athletes, organizers, or people. And when we say AI, it's just like a buzzword now. There's multiple layers to it. There's multiple ways of how you can adapt it to the conventional sport industry, which is more than 100 years old. So I think from our organization's perspective, we would like to take it one step at a time, but build it for a sustainable future for our massive community across the globe. So I think we want to use it in layers and make sure that we're taking it slow, but taking it for the right purpose and making the most out of that technology.
Yeah, I love that aspect around community and purpose. I think many of the discussions that we've heard over the last few days, how football can be truly transformative across the board. Robert, you have a completely different vantage point. A quick high-level overview from you.
Yeah, so from our perspective at IMG, we're just looking at the agency and partnership work we do with federation clubs all across the world. And so when you have AI accelerating now, and I think, to put that into context, some of you might know these stats, but it's always the speed of adoption, which is interesting. So if I've got it wrong, from 0 to 100 million users, and AI only really accelerated with ChatGPT launching in around, I think it was October, November of 2022. But they've gone to 100 million users in the space of 3 months. So by comparison, TikTok took 9 months and Instagram 2.5 years, and those were the big apps. So all of that, to put into context, AI has been around for a long time, but we are now, I believe, at a tipping point where you will be able to see it in every aspect of work, every aspect of content. And I even know some executives, maybe one in this room, who's used the ChatGPT to put together a business plan, and that's the right way to do it. Put it in, feed, and come back. And so you get customized and localized information coming back to you much quicker.
That's incredible. So of one executive that utilized ChatGPT to create a business plan and then personalized or adapted it.
And by the way, I was just seeing an interview today of a top executive in the US. That's exactly what you need to do. In the extent, if you put it in and you do the business plan and you just take it out and that's it, you're probably not going to get the right result. If you use it as a platform to then exchange with and to improve, then it's a smart use of it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just really touching upon that. Majdi, obviously you're based here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What do you feel is the general appetite towards AI in general?
I think the adaptation of AI in Saudi, whether it was in sports or in different ecosystems, is at all-time high. And I think with Saudi's vision on basically being the pioneers in everything they do, AI adaptation has been great. In football, if you look at the professional league, they have implemented all the current technologies that helps make the game better. In the amateur side, which I represent, we've been doing and experimenting with so many different projects with the Ministry of Sports, with with their biggest project, which is the schools league, different technologies, different AI engines that helps us scout the next big Saudi star.
Yeah, very cool. Well, speaking about scouting, Koen, you do a different level of scouting, which is you're obviously overseeing a fund, you're looking at selecting potential companies that sportsmen are contributing to. What percentage of your investment is currently based in and around AI and technology, would you say?
I would say 10%, and I think the reason for that is we are talking to young talents. We're talking to a lot of people that are underprivileged, underdeveloped markets. So introducing AIs in a big, massive way, I don't think it's the right time for us right now. We do it gradually and we do it project-based. But I think in the next few years, things will be, we will be investing much more in that domain.
Very good. And Koen, similar question for you.
Yeah, so I think for us, we invest to make the world of sports better. Ultimately, you invest to make financial returns, but we want to make the world of sports better. So whether that's focusing on mental health, nutrition, sleep, hydration, injury prevention, this is really the stuff that we like to do. Ultimately, that value is something that we look to create. And which technology supports the value ultimately doesn't really matter. It's not up to us to decide that it's going to be one particular way. It's up to the end customer to decide. Answering your question in a bit more direct way, we have 50% of our portfolio, which is 7 in our fund right now, which we launched 3 months ago, in AI. So we have two companies focusing on data capturing from imagery, whether it's live content or photos and videos. And we have one content that is specialized, done by a PhD from Australia in analyzing all the event and performance data available in professional sports, and suggesting the outcomes in a way that football people understand. So yeah, that's really where we are at right now.
Absolutely. Okay, well, taking that point and spinning it back to you, Robert, technology, AI, algorithms, machine learning, once you go down this waterfall of cascading tech terms, it can become quite complicated. So for any executive that's out there that's operating within the sporting or football field, how important is personal judgment, intuition, gut feel alongside technology as an enabler?
I think in the end, you need to marry the both. I mean, from our perspective, or at least from my perspective, what AI is going to allow us to do is to accelerate the storytelling and the content customization, localization, which is going to be key to any successful club or league that's trying to, fight for attention. But that balance, I find that fascinating, because that balance of the artificial intelligence, which is the automated, mixed in with the real life, is exactly where it's that connection point, which is, if it's got correct, is going to be fine. But then you've got an extreme, which is if you go 10, 15, 20 years down the line, it's not impossible that there is going to be a league competition which is created completely in the artificial world, right? We're now in the third era of the web. Note I didn't use Web 3 because that seems to be tarnished with NFT and metaverse and whatever words at the moment people, feel has come and gone. But the third era of the web has firmly started, and it started now with this acceleration of AI. So that's going to be kind of the opportunity and the threat. But right now, and also just to talk about what we're doing today, what AI helps us with is actually editing, cutting, delivering quicker, right? And that's going to be the case, I think, for the next 12, 18 months. But then you are definitely going to get into new areas of content. You're going to get into the ability through AI to basically have, I'd say, the combination of three things. You're going to have smart stadiums, you're going to have access content quickly, and then the engines running it, which means the experience in the stadium and from the fans' perspective is going to be changed immeasurably.
Yeah. And in your opinion, how far down the road are we between getting the theory of the smart stadium all the way through to the execution of that?
Well, smart stadiums are already existing. In my old previous job of the Bundesliga, there's a couple of clubs which are well advanced down that way. But to get to the full smart stadium where you're completely cashless, of which I think there are a number in the US, there are a couple, as I said, in and around Europe, but to have that full ability, the immersive full one, I think for that to become standard, we're still 5-7 years away. Maybe look at, on the big scale, 24 European Championships will be too soon. 2026 World Cup will probably be too soon. After that, we're getting into the realm of as I said, the smart stadia sort of immersive reaction.
Koen, did you have?
Yeah, no, it was more to add to Robert's story, because let's say with a more digitalizing world, more and more data becomes available, and the more data there is, the more things you need to analyze to be able to make better decisions. So ultimately, the key functionality we see for AI is that with more data being collected, decision making is now more complicated because there's more things to take into consideration, and AI can clearly simplify that decision making process by taking key data points from whether it's on a performance basis in professional sports or audience-based or consumer-based. Yeah, there's a lot more information being collected, and with AI, that can be turned into insights a lot quicker.
Yeah. And before I go to Majdi, just a quick follow-up there on you, Koen. How well equipped do you think football teams are or sports teams are in terms of developing that internal competence? Because it's one area having all the data, it's another question knowing what to do with that data.
So I think it's always twofold. So if smaller teams do not have budgets to hire their own data science teams, you can say, I don't have the budget to hire my own data science team. Or you can take an innovative approach, and rather than to try to internalize things, leverage what is being developed out there. Of course, as VC, we always like scalable solutions, so we are a little bit against tailor-made solutions for particular clubs, and we would always recommend to work with outside partners, because ultimately the scalability and also the key focus of a particular team is to do that in the best possible way. Whereas an internal team, you're always competing to what is happening in the outside world. So again, to answer your question in a bit more of a direct way, anyone, whether you are the top team in the world in whatever sport or you are one of the smaller teams, there are solutions out there that can help you make better decisions. And the question is really, do you want to use them, yes or no? And many people don't want to use them, but I think this will change over time as well. And yeah, that's it really.
Yeah. So speaking of using AI, Majdi, in your capacity, do you believe that a natural extension of your product could be predicting, analyzing what a world-class player is, maybe before they even know how good they are, for example? How far do you feel that your technology can go from the predictive data science perspective?
See, we work with a lot of clubs and a lot of federations and maybe hundreds of scouts and agents. The data that we provide, whether it was coaches-related data or AI input, as he said, it helps a lot in decision-making. But I think from our experience, the ecosystem that we're working with, they still rely on the physical, on the kind of like, okay, this AI is telling me these are the best players, but I actually want to see them on the pitch. I want to see how they perform, because they still don't kind of believe on, not believe, but I'm saying it's going to take time for them to kind of get the data or believe the data that comes out from AI.
Okay, very good. Well, Aisha, let's come to you now around AI and technology in general. There's been a conversation around pros and cons, ethics, data privacy. Maybe you can give us your insights around what are some of the more challenging aspects around utilizing AI?
I think most of it lies in the fact that anybody who works in the AI is so tech first. And then you go to talk to a sporting ecosystem, which is so traditional, which still uses bookkeeping, which still uses manual sheets, even if you're at a FIFA World Cup, right? So I have a feeling that the transition needs to be aided better in order to clear the understanding that AI is a smart tool. Because if you tell someone to download an app and tell that person that this is going to make your life easier, the person is up for it. The person is ready to download it because he knows that this is going to help his life or save 5 minutes, whatever the reasoning is or whatever the salesperson has put across. But with AI, what happens is you go to a conference or you speak somewhere, people throw these big words like he was mentioning. You go to a Web3 place, there's like jargon, big words. And then you go to an AI conference, they say Euclidean distance. And I'm like, someone who's never been in a physics class, don't expect him to understand that. And I feel like I clearly agree with Robert when he said that earlier, we used to only focus on efficiency and productivity, but now the world is running faster than us. If you were in a Mercedes, I heard this in the same stage yesterday, everyone's running on a Ferrari now. So if you have to get to that speed, you need this genie that's coming out of Aladdin's lamp. And that genie is something that you feed, you train, which is what's called AI. It's just artificial intelligence. And people kind of doubt it because you don't trust your own inputs. Because the AI doesn't say things out of Jupiter. It says things that you input and then you let it analyze things and then give you back the right feedback. So I feel like it's more of a transitioning, like then there has to be a bridge and there has to be a transitioning bridge for people to move from convention to the AI space. Now, where I'm coming from is because we deal with children who are 12-year-olds, and we also have athletes who are 57-year-olds doing the same sport. So then we are trying to now set up a platform which speaks to everyone. I'm like, oh, my 57-year-old athlete doesn't like to use a platform. I can't be like, no, I can't give him complex app which he has to like take 15 days of user manual, while the 12-year-old is, oh, this is saving my life. So I feel like the transition will solve the problems of pros and cons. And the only problem when it comes to sport is we have so much personal data. I don't think in any other sector you handle so much personal data, because the resource here is human beings. Your athletes, your product is a human being. So that's where most of the controversies come in, because you have their medical data, you have basically their personal data, and there's so much of controversies around privacy and how you manage it and where do you store it, what happens when the electricity just shuts one day. So I feel like it's like I would like to have that bridge, that transition bridge between.
Absolutely. As a former lawyer, the expression is often, technology leads and regulation follows, and I'm sure this will be no different. Majdi, just to ask you on that question, what's the average age of the user for your application, and what are you personally doing internally to ensure that you're on the right side of the ethics discussion?
So 60% of our user base is between the age of 8 to 17. which I think is great because these are the dreamers. But then we have a large segment of users that uses Grintafy or uses the app for the football on demand concept. So yeah, so 60%.
Okay, which struck me, Koen's working in VC, like that. I think you guys are doing a Series A. Maybe there should be a conversation at the end of this as well. Always great to bring people together. So let's now jump from talking about AI in a broad aspect, bring it into a little bit more of a focus area around application. So what is AI actually doing on a day-to-day basis? So I'll turn to you, Robert, in and around broadcasting. What do you believe are the pros and cons of AI's impact on football specific to broadcast?
I think let's start with the opportunities is what we said before. In the immediate term, it's everything that we can do around analyzing wider forms of content, whether it's video or stats, and synthesizing that in a quick, short space of time. A lot of you in the sports world might know the company WSC was one of the first that did that in terms of quick highlights. I mean, that's an example of AI functioning and doing something good for us. The other point, which is going to be great for us, as I said, is the localization, customization. I don't know if we have a video of Messi speaking English.
I believe we do. Can we roll the Messi video?
So this is Messi speaking English for the first time.
Maybe we do, maybe we don't. There we go.
Yeah, no,
Sure, Kabir is working on it.
He's just checking.
Yeah.
Despite the unexpected nature of the situation, today we find ourselves in the final match. This game is for those who are unaware of our training and don't witness our day-to-day efforts. We were not prepared for this opportunity, but we will give our best to compete and strive for the title. It has eluded us in the past, but we are determined to achieve it this time. I believe that the team has experienced significant growth, especially since Tata arrived. We are very happy to have achieved the first objective of being in the top 3 for Champions Cup qualification next year, and now we have the opportunity to play in the final. This is a great accomplishment for the team, and we are excited to see what the future holds.
Maybe Robert, because it involves an elite athlete. He is, let's say, saying things in a translated manner. But when it comes to rights on videos like this, what is your view there? Because it's also a bit awkward, no?
It's a bit what?
Awkward.
I mean, look, it's a bit. That's what AI is going to bring. It's going to bring these an opportunity where, in this case, my view is because it was all done in a controlled environment. For the millions of fans who want to hear from the MLS and from Inter Miami in particular, it's good. The risk, of course, is that this is going to go and balloon with people being, referred to and making statements which are not attributed to them. But is that what you meant in terms of the awkward
also
side?
The rights of it. So someone took his conference or interview and uses him to translate whatever he's saying. Is there any sort of whatever regulation or rights type of a way where you can protect yourself against someone using you to say things in a different language?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's the risk that you're going to have with this new kind of IP that comes along, and that goes into the threat area, right?
Yep.
Which is just containment. AI, the genie is out of the bottle, as you were mentioning, but if it is used in a manner, and it's going to have to be controlled, as you said, the technology comes first and then the regulation, then I believe we'll be in a situation where we can certainly maximize the goodness out of it. And there are going to be issues. There was recently, with the NBA, a player, I don't know if you guys saw it, but he was basically attributed a statement which was completely wrong. And the NBA was Willard, had to pull it back. So like all technology, I mean, if you go back to Gmail, you had crappy emails coming in, so you create a spam folder. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be as basic as that, but if you don't embrace it, others will, and therefore, the best thing is to work with it, as I said, step by step, but definitely try and maximize it. And if you look into the future, right now in terms of the sports, this year we had the rise of the mega influencer, as I would call them, right? There was Ronaldo, right here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There was Messi in the MLS, and there was one more in the NFL that people might have heard of, Taylor Swift, right? Because of her relationship with Travis. Those are all situations which needed to be fed and localized and customized, and so done in a proper way. that content will be able to get out to people, and there'll be an NFL fan who just wants to see Travis, but there's a lot of NFL fans, both young boys and young girls, who want to see Taylor Swift doing her little wave from the box up there. And it matters to them, and it matters to them more than the final score. So we're now in a world where we're going to be able to service that, and I think that should be embraced.
Yeah. And on the topic of broadcast and content format and length, where does your opinion sit around short form content? Because what we're seeing is that is really going viral.
Well, you asked me if I've got any kids, right? The biggest fight I have at home is because they're still relatively young. We control still their time on social media, and we're one of the few parents that they don't like it. And the next thing is their heads are always down, right? So that's not good. And then the other thing is that their attention span, either for the content here or when daddy is telling you to do something, is very short. So in terms of leagues and clubs, there's a real conversation to be had there, right? Because the viewership, as everyone knows, is skewing older on the live. There are some that are being taken along. But this attention deficit that people have got in a very short time, in a decade, is going to be problematic. So do you have to change your format? Does football have to go to quarters? I'm talking about not American football, soccer. You know, these are all questions that if they're not addressed at some point, you might lose. So yeah, with the change of the ability of what AI is going to give us, plus the next generation put together, there are serious questions. And, you know, as an agency, IMG, we want to be ahead of that, see what the trends are, and then try and come with solutions.
Yeah, well, speaking of trends, that's a perfect segue for you, Aisha, in terms of the World Freestyle Footballing Championships. You all know the potential of short-form content. Maybe you can give us an insight into how you've approached it.
Yeah, sure. I think I do agree, like all of us have transitioned from an age where movies were our video content to now we watch reels which are like 1 minute or lesser, like 30 seconds is the new deal. And I think that's where we don't have to fight this system because our formats are small. We do battles where two freestylers are showing their tricks and then it's like a boxing ring and it's quick, it's entertaining, and then it keeps going. And I think the good part of that is when we were hit by COVID as a federation, we could still function like full-fledged. We could still do all our regional championship, our international championship, because we could do it online. Like people just had to place their camera in the vertical format, do that. Some judges are watching it, scoring, and moving forward. Now with attention span, I think it's also because there's so much information. Like you cannot spend 3 hours to know a quick trick on Excel, for example. Like earlier, like I myself can take a personal situation where I would watch a whole YouTube video for 20 minutes to understand how do I use this formula on Microsoft Excel. And today I'm like, you scroll it somewhere, there's someone showing you like quick. So I feel like it's more accessibility. If we have to put it in the positive way, it's more accessibility, it's quick, you get it and you go. And I think it's also how can football or freestyle football or any sport last longer than when you are in the stadium or wherever you are, right? Because you can't live inside a stadium. That's your 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 hour or 45 minutes. But when you go out as a business or as an entity, how do you engage people? You keep giving these little, packets. Like it's like intermittent fasting. Don't take 3 meals, but take little by little. And then what happens is that stays in your head. It's like a Nike shoe. There's so many Nike logos on it because people just want to keep reminding you that it's a Nike shoe. So I feel like it's more of a marketing trick, but you can use it in both good and bad ways. So I feel like with our sport, because the format in itself is a bit user-friendly for this age, it's quick, we keep going with it. It's very video-friendly, the format, how you capture it, broadcast. And we've always been using YouTube or social media channels. Our last championship went on Juventus, which is like their TikTok, Instagram page. We didn't even have to go to YouTube. So we went from a landscape video to a little vertical video on a platform like TikTok or Instagram. But it didn't mean that we lost viewership. No, we actually had more viewers because they didn't want to open YouTube or download an app for itself to watch because they were already on it, like he said. All the children are like on it. So you didn't have to do user acquisition. So you basically cut short. So I think it's accessibility. And just to refer to the Messi video, because I come from the Asian part of the world, I feel like these kind of tools give you more inclusion and more diverse markets to explore. Because if Messi is not going to speak in English, I'm not going to understand. I might be his biggest fan, but I'm not understanding what his emotions are or what he's saying. And with AI, like you could say, oh, I can keep a translator, but the translator is not going to give me the emotions or the gesture that Messi is giving, because you can input that data and then it can show me exactly what Messi feels.
And he had a great accent.
Oh yeah, yes.
There you go, right?
I have a slightly different view. Because everyone, especially in conferences like this, everyone repeats a bit of each other, like short form content and things like this. It really depends on how you look at it. So if you go to a movie, you're not going to go for the last 2 minutes to see what the end of the movie is going to be. So you enjoy the build-up, you enjoy the narrative, you understand why you're actually going to the theater, and that is to see the whole build-up and to eventually get to a certain outcome. In professional sports or even amateur sports, it's exactly the same thing. But if we compare social media usage, which is always short-form content, as the way the new generation consumes sports content, I agree and I disagree, because yes, they do it, but is it because they want short-form content? Or is that where the platforms that they operate in offer short-form content? For me, it's way more the second, which doesn't mean that longer form content or broadcasting entire games or something like this is someone that is not interested. But everyone here in the room as well, during this conference, for sure, has been on their phone messaging with someone or something like this. So it just becomes a slightly different change, but it doesn't mean that, I hope, the stuff we're saying here is irrelevant. It's just that there's always multiple things going on, and there's just a lot more connectivity going on. But the short form content statement, yeah, I don't know. It's maybe a bit much sometimes.
Yep. So I think that what you're saying there really is that content exists based on your needs, right? And also there's multiple content types that's there. I think one of the things that Richard touched upon and Aisha too is this convergence between sport and entertainment. Like it's always been there. And I think you're the perfect person to ask this question, given that you have footballers, F1 players, boxers that have invested into your fund. What do you see some of those trends between sports and entertainment?
So there's a lot of positive things going on, but let's say the main thing is to stop separating the two. So sports is entertainment. But what an actor needs to do to produce entertainment is different than what an athlete needs to do to produce entertainment. Now, what we always focus on, and maybe it's a bit repetitive what I'm going to say here, is if the athletes are able to perform on the top of their abilities, there is always entertainment. If the athletes start to drop a level, or we're going to be looking at 45-year-olds playing professional football, it's not going to be as entertaining. So as long as we make sure that the athletes are always able to perform on the top of their abilities, which is the type of solutions we like to invest in, it will always be prime entertainment.
Okay, very good. Well, let's wrap things up. Just two more questions, because I've been told that we're pushing the barriers here in terms of the time limit. But such is the quality of this conversation. Kabir,
Absolutely.
we're going to grab this.
Everyone's head is up. It's amazing.
This is great. So let's talk about innovation, Robert. We hear this term often. How do you gauge innovation within AI, football, and the sports industry in general?
I think it's the innovation is clearly to obviously identify the trends and be there at the beginning, but the real innovation for me is to then be able to convert that to something which is a platform or product that people use. And that's not easy. And for that, you need to innovate. And for that, I'm sure that down the end, there'll be no disagreement. You need to have a culture which is one which is prepared to fail. So it's a mindset allied with sort of a hunger. And, there's I can think of the time when I was at the Bundesliga, there was a number of technology products that we put out there that even reached on to broadcast, and we took them off after 3 months because people was like, but data, it always accentuates the relationship between the fan and and they were like, oh, it's so boring. That fact is not interesting. So it's about being able to get that mix.
Okay, good. Over to you. Innovation, what does it mean for your business?
We like to make things, so I'm Dutch, so one of our, let's say, great Dutch footballers is Johan Cruyff. I think the university is here as well, so that's good. But he has one quote that we apply to Apex as well. So he says, football is a simple game, but to play simple football is the most difficult thing to do. So when you talk about innovation and AI and whatever, it's very easy to make things very complicated. But the core of innovation always is if you are able to understand your customer and what they look to achieve, or which itch they have that needs to be scratched, or bleeding neck issue that they need to solve, that is always the foundation of successful innovations.
Very good. So just 30 seconds now per person. We'll start with you, Majdi. What do you see as some of the future trends in football?
Future trends in football.
Big question, man.
Very big question.
Yeah.
It cannot be answered in 30 seconds, right? So I'll take it from my area of expertise, right? I believe that it will be very soon where we'll be able to get notification by different platforms. Telling us that there's a talented player that's available in this X city that is very far that you should go see.
Very good. Aisha, same question.
Yeah, I think for us, because we have already been okay using these kind of technology, for us to use as much as technology as possible to integrate the whole system, because we are a decade-old organization and we are trying to tackle something which is very different from your traditional sporting ecosystem. So when you say freestyle football, it could be an educational tool in a school. It could be something that you use for empowerment. It could be a team building activity, or it could be something you have a ball inside your bedroom and every day you come back from work and this is just a stress buster to learn a trick. So I think for us, the future trends that we might use is to see that we can bring the whole of the globe. That's what football is for, or that's what any sport is. It unites the whole world. We're trying to unite the whole world using just a ball and yourself. You don't have to depend on a lot of things because we are going to come to you using technology to let you enjoy that sport.
Beautiful answer.
I'll leave you with two thoughts. I think the first is one that's been talked about a lot, but which is non-negotiable. The future of broadcast and entertainment is going to be localization, customization. And if you're not able to do that through AI or through other ways, you're going to not respond to the desire of the fan, be he or she. The second one that we haven't talked about much though, and particularly if you're asking about trends in football, is the very clear coming of women's football. And those who get into that early and those who get into it and understand that that fan base, and particularly the women's fan base and the men's fan base in women's football is growing and is not being catered to, are going to probably be on the end of better margins than what they'll find in men's football. So women's football is definitely coming.
Very good. Women's football. Good.
I think for me that the main thing that we get excited about the most is that technology in the broadest sense, or innovations in the broadest sense, really enable from anywhere in the world to get access to the same amount of expertise, knowledge, and let's say support tools to help them develop in their career. So no matter whether you were born in Amsterdam like me, or whether you're born in Saudi Arabia, or whether you're born anywhere else in the world, to get access to that same level of expertise to become a better football player, or in this particular case, football.
Very good. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about the ethics of AI. We've talked about practical applications. And we even got to find out that John Cena would indeed be James Milner as a footballer. So what does this all mean? If you kind of really translate it to touch on some of the themes here, ultimately you can have technology and you can have data, but it's about the people in charge of those respective units. Outside of that, think about content forms, think about how you can really progress and upskill internally. And finally, like with most things, this is really an opportunity for us all to innovate this game in and around football as well. Please give this panel a warm round of applause as we wrap things up.